Hey everyone, it's Tracy, and welcome back to Cosmic Conversations, a space where we discuss and decode the astrology of the moment. Today we're talking about the full moon in Leo, so let's get started. The full moon in Leo occurs on January 28th or 29th, depending on where you live in the world. On the 28th, it's exact at 2:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11:16 a.m. Pacific Time, 7:16 p.m. UK time, and on the 29th, 6:16 a.m. Sydney time. It occurs at 9 degrees 6 minutes of Leo. So the full moon represents the peak point in the lunar cycle. From the Earth's perspective, the sun and moon are on opposite sides of the Earth. So on the screen, you'll notice my slide where the sunlight's on one end, full moon's on the other. Or they're 180 degrees away from one another, with the sun at this point transiting through the sign of Aquarius and the moon transiting through the sign of Leo. Our current lunar cycle began back on January 12th or 13th with the new moon in Capricorn. So over the past 2 weeks, we've been developing an awareness of what that new moon energy was all about. If you watched my new moon in Capricorn video, you'll recall that the sun, which was conjunct Pluto at the time, was infusing the things that Capricorn represents into our emotional body or seeding into our intuitive knowing. These are just some of the things that the moon represents in astrology. So as the moon does not produce any light of its own, this full moon is a point in the lunar cycle when the moon receives the full illumination or full light of the sun. This time, the sun shines the light of Aquarian energy onto the moon. In astrology, Aquarius represents our social networks or our friends, the groups and organizations we belong to, technology and innovation, science, evolution or revolution, our future hopes and wishes. It represents humanity and the collective as a whole. Our human rights. It definitely represents space. It's about the ideas or out-of-the-box thinking that we do. It also represents awakening and freedom. And as you can see from the Aquarian glyph of the two waves of energy, it represents frequency of energy. A lot of people think that Aquarius is a water sign because one of the symbols of Aquarius is the water bearer, but Aquarius is an air sign. The water bearer is representative of the person who takes care of the collective, makes sure that everybody's got water. The moon at this full moon is receiving this Aquarian energy and is reflecting back to the sun through the earth, our emotions and emotional intelligence, subconscious patterning, and intuitive or instinctive knowing, which in this case is centered around the energy of Leo. So what does Leo represent? Leo represents our truest nature, or who we really are, not who people think we are. Leo represents our inner child, our sovereign power, our authority and dignity. It represents fun and playfulness, our creativity, our soul's expression, the ability to take risks, be courageous. It also definitely represents our love and heart energy. So when we think about oppositions, we usually picture two sides that can't agree or rival parties. But in astrology, an opposition doesn't necessarily mean that these two planets can't get along. It simply means that they're trying to make their respective themes work together, but they're coming at it from like two different perspectives, and they have to find common ground. So yes, there may be some tug of war that occurs, but the goal is to meet in the middle and find balance in this energy. For example, both Aquarius and Leo enjoy independence. Leo wishes to live in its authority, as we can see by our lion with his crown on. Aquarius wants the freedom to be its unique, weird self, but still be accepted within society. The sun, which rules the sign of Leo, is actually at its detriment in Aquarius, meaning that it's at a weaker position in Aquarius because that's not its natural energy. The sun, which is the center of our universe, likes to be the center of attention. But in Aquarius, the focus is on the collective, not on the self. So the sun, representative of our conscious awareness or expression of our life force energy, in Aquarius, it's more concerned about being part of the crowd or being part of the tribe and less concerned about standing out in the crowd. So, all right, now we know and understand a little more about what a full moon cycle is and the Leo Aquarius axis of energy. Let's take a closer look at this full moon chart. All right, so here we can see the moon in Leo opposite to the sun, Jupiter, and Saturn, who are all in Aquarius at the time of the full moon. The sun is conjunct Saturn and Jupiter, Saturn being at 4 degrees, and Jupiter is actually at the same degree as the sun. So much like the new moon in Capricorn was infused with Pluto's energy, this full moon is mixed with the Saturn and Jupiter energy. And Saturn and Jupiter are both transmitting their energy to the moon in Leo as well. With the sun and Jupiter at the same degree, this signals the beginning of a new sun-Jupiter cycle. The start of a new sun-Jupiter cycle is generally considered to be a pretty auspicious day or a very lucky day because it's a day when the planet that represents luck, opportunity, and expansion, Jupiter, blends its energy with our soul's expression or creator source energy, the sun, heralding in the beginning of something new and exciting. So we do have that energy in play. But while most people look at Sun-Jupiter days as the days of rainbows and unicorns, I'd say in this particular instance, with all of the other things that are going on, it won't be as much unicorns and rainbows as some astrology memes might be indicating. Jupiter is expanding the sun's energy in the collective. It's definitely highlighting the gifts, luck, and benefits of being part of a group. But it can also make every situation bigger, perhaps even more overwhelming and exaggerated. So let's look on the positive side. This could mean a renewed faith in humanity. Faith represented by Jupiter, humanity represented by Aquarius. It could also expand the frequency of consciousness. Expansion Jupiter, frequency Aquarius, consciousness definitely the sun. It could also highlight the beliefs that we have about self-centered individuals in society. Beliefs represented by Jupiter, self-centered individuals, the sun, and in society, definitely Aquarium. Could also mean that we get fixated on science as the new religion in our collective experience. Science Aquarius, religion Jupiter, and again, collective experience is definitely Aquarian. So the sun in Leo can also represent drama. The sun and Jupiter could expand the energy of drama in the collective. And while the full moon is reflecting everything back through the earth to these planets, the full moon could reflect our dramatic emotions and our subconscious patterns and reactions to drama. When you throw Saturn in the mix, it's bringing an air of reality to our situation. Yep, Saturn is all about the reality check. In Saturn's world, you can't have rainbows without the rain. You certainly can't have luck. It only occurs when opportunity meets preparation and hard work. And in Saturn's world, unicorns don't exist. You can't see them or touch them, so Saturn doesn't recognize them. Saturn's all about what's real and manifested. So in this time, Saturn, which is a restrictive, depressing, suppressive energy, it may try to impose more restrictions on the collective. Jupiter and Saturn both represent the law. Saturn represents the law in terms of the actual rules and regulations that are enacted. Jupiter, on the other hand, represents the philosophy of law, or the concept of ethics, morals, and how they shape our behaviors and norms in society. With the sun in its weaker position in Aquarius, this energy can manifest into more restrictive measures aimed at controlling the collective, aimed at conformity or limiting individuality. These measures may be through expansion of big tech's censorship. Big tech definitely represented by Aquarius, censorship represented by Saturn. It could be a move to curtail our freedom of expression of our beliefs, our freedom to express our individual energy. We may also see human rights or constitutional violations. As Jupiter rules publishing, we could definitely see more restrictions in this area, but I don't just mean big tech restrictions. With publishing, it could be restrictions on published works, such as books, articles. It could be, since it's Aquarius, restrictions on websites, blogs. Jupiter also rules institutions of higher learning. So we could start to see some restrictions around things going on at universities and colleges, or some censorship at universities and colleges. This may also be a period where we see censorship of astrology. Astrology is ruled by Aquarius. Since Jupiter rules religious groups, we could also see more restrictions on religious groups and organizations, more censorship of these groups. And we could also see some restriction or censorship on science that doesn't fit with the collective narrative. Jupiter rules the stories that we tell, the narrative that's going on. And of course, societal narratives would definitely be Aquarian and Jupiter together, and science for sure. So any scientific theory or scientific study that doesn't fit quite with the collective narrative at this time, we may not see in the collective realm. We could also see more people removed from groups and organizations based on their beliefs. For those of us that are in Canada, an example that might come to mind would be the recent removal of Derek Sloan from the Conservative Party caucus. When I saw this, I saw the symbology of Jupiter, Saturn, Aquarius all over the place. So we've got Derek Sloan, a politician and lawyer, which is double Jupiter, removed from the Conservative caucus. Conservatism definitely ruled by Saturn, and caucus, even though it's not the party, it's still an organization. So definite Aquarian energy there. And point of note, I believe Derek Sloan is a Scorpio sun, so he has some squares coming from all of the stuff in Aquarius to his Scorpio placements. It could also, this energy could also very much manifest in expansion of the movements to disbar lawyers based on the beliefs that they have expressed. Lawyers represented again by both Saturn and Jupiter. We could also see actors who are represented by Leo and the Sun removed from organizations like acting unions based on their beliefs and opinions. We could see the opposite with an increased membership to groups and organizations that align with people's beliefs. So over the next couple of weeks, as you are navigating the information that's coming at you, definitely take a look and see if you can pick out the Jupiter, Saturn, Sun, Aquarius, Moon symbology. In addition to those planets influencing the full moon, we also have both luminaries, both the Sun and the Moon, 90 degrees away from Mars and Uranus, which is a square aspect or a tense conversation. As you can see from the chart on the screen, all that bold red, we've got a T-square in the sky. We've got the opposition between the moon and all of the planets in Aquarius squaring over to Uranus and Mars in Taurus. So the sun, Saturn, Jupiter oppose the moon, very much feeling anger and frustration with in their conversation with Uranus and Mars. Both Uranus and Mars are in weaker positions in Taurus, but they're still fighting to impose their energy on this conversation. A square aspect requires some type of action in order to bring balance to the energy. Uranus being the modern day ruler of Aquarius, it's doubling down on that Aquarian vibe, or that frequency of freedom, innovation, awakening, evolved consciousness. But from the sign of Taurus, it's highlighting how those Aquarian themes fit with our values, how they determine our self-worth, break us free from our comfort zones, disrupt our need for stability, heighten our sense beyond the physical senses, and of course, affect our resources. Mars, being the ruler of Aries and traditional ruler of Scorpio, is forcing us to recognize how we identify with these Aquarian Leo themes. Mars gets a little frustrated in Taurus because Taurus is a slower moving energy, and Taurus fixates on its needs and comforts, when Mars is seeking passion and what it desires, not necessarily what it needs. Mars is also about initiation, while Taurus is a little more about nurturing. So if we take a bigger view of this conversation, or take a bigger view of this T-square in the sky, we could say that this is a conversation about our awareness of our beliefs and limitations around expressing our individuality within society, and how these beliefs or this awareness clash with our values and perhaps our identity. Simply put, do you value shining your light? Do you value standing out in the crowd, expressing that which makes you unique? Or would you prefer to identify with the crowd, be part of the audience? Are you okay with having other people in the crowd have their voices or freedoms suppressed? Where's the balance between expressing our individuality and what is good for society? Can you be sovereign within the collective? Can we accept the expression of unique, innovative, or perhaps even weird ideas without making people feel ostracized, alien, or separate from the group? Can you awaken or raise your level of consciousness without judging those who aren't yet awake or are still on their journey of awakening? Or in the reverse, can you value the ideas and beliefs of those that express a viewpoint totally foreign to you? Can we still be a tribe of humanity when we look, think, and speak in alien terms? These are the energies that this full moon will be representing and expressing in our society. In addition, this full moon is also highlighting the zodiac signs that represent resources and finances. Taurus is our sign that rules money or resources that you gain from your job. Leo rules the money or resources that you make from risk-taking or self-employment. Scorpio rules the money or resources that you gain through other people, such as investments, inheritances, loans, debts, your significant other's salary. And Aquarius rules the money or resources that you gain from the groups and organizations that you belong to, the fulfillment of your hopes and wishes. It also very much rules stocks and cryptocurrency. So interestingly, the ruler of Taurus, which is Venus, is going to be conjunct Pluto at the time of the full moon. Pluto and Venus are in Capricorn at the moment. Pluto happens to be the modern day ruler of Scorpio. So here we've got the ruler of Taurus and the ruler of Scorpio having their own conversation, not necessarily in the mix of the full moon. But the Venus-Pluto conversation could highlight an increase in wealth or value, an increase in value of assets and investments. Whenever you've got Pluto in the mix, there could be some secrets with Venus ruling money. They could be secrets around money. And since they're in Capricorn, these could be particularly with respect to governments and corporations. We could also see changes in the value of pension plans, government, and corporate debts. Since Pluto represents scandals, we could also see scandals involving young women, which is Venusian energy, and governments. We could see scandals with young women, government, and political or corporate leaders. Given the full moon conversation, we have the ruler of Leo, the sun, Mars being the traditional ruler of Scorpio, Saturn, the traditional ruler of Aquarius, and Uranus, the modern day ruler of Aquarius, all involved with the full moon conversation. So we have all of the financial signs or their rulers involved some way around this full moon. So it's definitely a time to watch the financial markets. Watch the value of cryptocurrency, gold, silver, and other currencies during this time. On a final note, full moon cycles are not just reflective of the energy that is seated at the new moon that precedes them. They're also reflective of the energy of the corresponding new moon in the same zodiac sign. So for us, look back to the intentions, plans, creations that you set in motion during the new moon in Leo back on August 18th, 2020. And now fast forward 6 months. Here you are. What are you becoming aware of now about these intentions? What actions are required now to complete this cycle? And how is this energy manifesting or culminating in your life? Again, this is peak awareness around taking action, being courageous, taking risks, embracing love, and having fun. In terms of the expression of this full moon in Leo energy, we can take a look back at some of the events that occurred around that August 18th new moon, and we may see the culmination around some of the events that happened. So for Canadians, we may be revisiting the events that resulted in the cyber attack that shut down the government systems, including the Canada Revenue Agency computer systems. Same time, we had Bill Morneau resign as the finance minister. We had Chrystia Freeland sworn in as the new finance minister, and we also had Justin Trudeau prorogue Parliament, shut it down until September 23rd. Oh, some may say to reset, others may say to avoid the We Charity controversy. Whichever it was, we may begin to see some manifestation and revisiting of these events. It's actually interesting to note that most of these events occurred either the day before or the day of the new moon in Leo in August 2020. This time frame also represents the time when Erin O'Toole was elected as leader of the Conservative Party. So a few things that we may see pop up in the energy of the full moon in Leo. In the US, the August 2020 time was a time that encompassed Jacob Blake's shooting, the protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting. We also had the first wave of crackdowns on Facebook and Instagram accounts that were considered to be promoting conspiracy theories. So we may see some revisiting around some of these stories at the time of the full moon in Leo. For sure, the next 2 weeks should be full of interesting events and surprising, if not shocking, developments. Whenever you've got Uranus in the mix, you can bet that there'll be some surprise or some shock around. This is the energy that's going to be carrying us into February. February will be highlighted by a Mercury retrograde. We'll have the first hit of our ongoing transit of Saturn square Uranus, and we will have an overload of Aquarian energy. It's about to get weird, y'all. If you would like to learn more about the important planetary transits in February and March 2021, I invite you to join me for my online workshop called The Dawning of Something New. It's on January 28th, starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Details for registration are in the description below. And if you'd like to dive a little deeper into your own birth chart and begin to understand some of the energy that you incarnated with, definitely check out my website, cosmicyogaandwellness.com. Check out some of the astrology services that I have, and always, in the effort of keeping this conversation going, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be alerted when I upload new videos. In the spirit of this Aquarian and Leo energy, I leave you with the following quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints in your heart. So until we talk again, from my heart to yours, I'm sending you much love and wishing you many blessings for this full moon. Be well.